Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Will Bodycot, Drew Mangan, and Rob Moore here with the Death, Taxes, and Hot Takes podcast. This is going to be a podcast of all things bold for bold people. Drew, tell us a little about yourself.
What's up, guys? I'm Drew Mangan. I'm from outside Philadelphia, Westchester, PA, to be exact. And I'm actually a junior at Cornell. I'm studying hotel and restaurant administration, and very interested in basically all subjects. I love learning about new things from politics, sport. Starting this podcast was a great idea to really get our opinions out there and connect with a fan base that we hope to be building up and with just listeners around the world.
Thanks, Drew. So, hey guys, my name's Rob. I'm a sophomore at Temple University in Philly. I'm also from Westchester, Pennsylvania. I've known Drew and Will for a really long time, and I'm just happy to get this podcast started. I think it's going to be, like Drew said, a really good way to express ourselves and use this quarantine to our advantage. I'm excited to do it with these guys. A little about myself. Like I said, I'm a sophomore at Temple. I study finance, so I'm really into investing and stuff like that. I love golf and love lifting, and we'll talk about a bunch of different things throughout this podcast. Let you guys know a little more about ourselves. But moving on to Will, he's going to introduce himself.
Yeah, as I said, I'm Will Bodycot. I go to Penn State University, and I'm double majoring in political science and broadcast journalism. We love talking about stuff every day that is going on in our lives, going on in your lives as well. And this podcast, as I said, is going to be for bold people, talking about bold topics. Oftentimes, we'll allow our audience to submit questions or topics, and we'd love to get engaged. It's going to be a really fun time. We hope you enjoy the ride along with us. So what we're going to get into at the first part of our podcast here is a debate, and we'll transition into hot takes and move along in our subjects, talking about all things present-day issues that we all care about. So first, we're going to start out with the stock market. We got a lot of people down. We got a lot of traders on the stock market in our age group, and some people are worried. Some people are optimistic. We have some naysayers in the group right now, but we'll just get off with that topic here. Drew, what do you think about it?
Yeah, well, obviously we've seen a bit of a resurgence after the initial COVID-19 hit and the stock market plunged, and we've seen a resurgence here. It's interesting because obviously the stock market is betting on futures, and traders and investors are very optimistic about the future. However, I don't have that optimistic point of view that they may have. I'm rather pessimistic. And I have multiple reasons for that, but I'd love to hear the other opinions in our group of what you guys are thinking about the market first.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we have some finance guys here in this group here, but I mean, I just want to take a look at the way the numbers have been moving. We had, the lowest point was about 18,000. We've rallied from that mainly based off of optimism in the market, mainly because people want to open up, people want to get back to business, and I think that any prediction you could make off past arguments is completely irrelevant. This is something we've never seen before. I mean, people have never been told to just go home and leave their businesses when they aren't in an economic calamity themselves or the stock market is causing people to lose their jobs. This is an artificial turnoff of an economy, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what will happen once people are allowed to start their commerce again. And I think that's mainly why people are so optimistic. I don't think you can.
Yeah, of course. And I understand that it's nice to be optimistic and you want to hold out this, pretty view of the future. But the fact of the matter is that the future doesn't really look good.
Well, let me say this real quick, Drew, not to cut you off, but just real quick. So my point of view, I'm kind of the mediator in this situation. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. So I'm not really going to get too on the one side. I mostly agree with Drew. I also agree with Will. But, there's so much we've never seen, like Will said. This is an artificial turnoff of the whole world and global economy. And that is so scary in the aspect of, you can look back at recent or past bear markets through the last 2 centuries, and you see, usually W-shaped recovery, stuff like that, which is what I think will happen, and which was Drew think will happen too. But there's no real way to know what's going to happen, and not the smartest people in the world knows. So I'm going to kind of be in the medium here, and kind of just like agree with some and disagree with some, and hopefully I can add some insight.
I would just like to start out by pointing out one of the most glaring points that point to not a great future: the unemployment market. I mean, we've seen billionaire investors, David Tepper, for example. He's the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and he's an extremely successful hedge fund manager, has said that the market is valued at the highest since 1999. Now, in an economy where 10% of the nation has just lost their jobs in 2 months, 33 million people are out of work, including 20.5 million in just April alone.
Temporarily.
What is optimistic about this future?
See, that's where I think that you're coming from.
I understand that you're saying that businesses are going to be open, but listen to this. Take, for example, the restaurant business. I know the restaurant business well. I've worked in it for the last 5 years.
Really?
Most areas of the country, in the phase 2 of reopening the country, there's an occupancy limit at under 50%. Now, these restaurants cannot hire back all their employees. All 33 million people that have lost their jobs, not half of them are going to get their jobs back immediately. And this means that only half of the people are employed again. This means that the restaurants are doing half of the business that they have done before. And the industry margins are so thin to start with. Restaurant margins are 5%, 10% at best. And now you're saying that these restaurants have to survive on under 50% occupancy? This is going to cause many businesses to go out of business, and these people are never going to get their jobs back, which means that the stock market, the economy, isn't going to be able to get going in the future.
I think that's a false equivalency.
Yeah,
I think that's the exact reason why
you
you have to figure out that this moment is the perfect time to buy. I mean, you're too narrow focused in saying only the restaurant business.
Yeah, but why are you buying on businesses that are failing?
Because no one in their right mind right now would sell, in my opinion, because there's nowhere but up to go for this economy. Because we're starting to open again.
I disagree.
I don't understand how you could see how we could get any worse in an economic situation that rivals the Great Depression.
All I'm saying is that we have all this money. The federal government has invested so much money in the stock market in the last 2 months.
Sure.
So much money. They're keeping it afloat. Without the federal government right now, the stock market would be suffering much worse. And that federal money, it's only going to do too much. It's not going to be able to prevent a recession. Lowering interest rates to spur lending does not do good to the consumers when people are afraid to leave their homes. People are afraid to spend money. That's not good. Having an inflated stock market price that's not realistic is not going to do anything if no business is coming in the door.
I mean, people are looking to get into the market because they see an opportunity to grow their profits. They obviously
exactly, and I just don't think those profits are going to grow in the near future. And
they don't have to grow in the near future. You can lock in your stocks now and not cash in for 20 years. People are not.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just talking about intermediate. There is going to be another recession.
There already is a recession, an artificial
you have to understand,
recession.
Though, when you bring up something like the unemployment rate, even before the unemployment rates came out, it was already priced into the market. Right? Stuff are priced in way before we even understand it, or before like people really comprehend it and understand what's going on. That stuff was already priced in to the market with that drop, right? So they knew the unemployment rate was going to go down with with the economy partially shutting down. Now I kind of agree with you in the aspect of unemployment rate, right? That's going to make people have less income, and when they have less income, it's really basic, right? The whole economic cycle, they're not going to spend money. That's the idea of capitalism. It flows through the businesses, through people, blah blah blah, and that's how the economy thrives. So I agree with you in that aspect, but I don't think the unemployment rate's enough to say that we're going to see a whole nother big drop off. I think we're going to see a partial one.
But it's an unemployment rate that we haven't seen in ever.
It's partial.
It's artificial.
I mean,
it's also not lost jobs. Now, certainly, some industries are never recovered,
and these jobs aren't going to be found.
I just said
jobs. Many of the lost jobs are going to be permanent.
Which is why I just said most of these, if not some of these jobs, are going to be permanently lost. It does not mean all of them will be, and that's certainly. I mean, if you look at it, we're looking at a negative 45% mobility of the American public. That will not last. It certainly will not last past a few months from now when people are.
Well, you don't know that.
I do know that. Look at the Swedish
because
model.
the CDC has said that there are going to be second infection waves.
Yeah, well, the CDC does not know what they're talking about. That's just my opinion.
The CDC doesn't know what they're talking about.
They don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know.
Disease control doesn't know what they're talking about.
They don't know what they're
talking about. And it's so hard to understand the economy in this situation because, like I said, no one knows what they're talking about. And when you look at no, you just don't like I'm pretty sure the drop off we saw was the biggest in history, right? The biggest percentage drop in history.
And then you had the best month since 1981, or
Yes.
since the
Now
30s.
that's called a dead cat bounce. So whenever the phrase comes from the idea of whenever a dead cat, even a dead cat bounces off the ground, like when it's dead, like since there was so much turmoil and
Hmm.
drop, people were like, oh, okay, let me buy, or big shorting, or
Exactly.
money's pumped in, blah, 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 which is why I think we're going to see the W shaped recovery. Because when you look at, you know, 2008, stuff like that, we saw that initial drop off, but it didn't hit the bottom until over a year later. And if you look back at all the past bear markets, it's the same thing. It took
Totally
over a
different
year for it to
situation.
reach its lowest point.
But it's a
But
totally
again,
different
back to the
situation.
point, this is why I'm in the media, and I'm kind of the
Here,
mediator, in between, because
let's listen. So, Bodycot, you were saying that the stocks are low, so people are going to buy, correct?
Yes, and I think you have to talk about the stocks and the
So
economy at the
let's
same
talk
time.
about the value of those stocks, because
They're
yeah, that's
inflated
what
because of
matters. It's
future
not
right,
about
so you're
predictions.
not looking at the value of the stock. So
It's
the
not the
Buffett
value; it's the
indicator,
future
as I talked to you about
optimistic
earlier,
value of
tells
it.
you the value of the stock, and the Buffett indicator is saying that the stocks are way overvalued. And I know you haven't taken a finance class before, Bodycot, but
see,
stocks
they're not
are overvalued. I know you can use easy intuition to
It's not
assume
about
that
intuition.
overvalued people are going to sell, which is going to
see,
stock market
yeah, but
turmoil.
when we saw
Disagree with
that
you. People are
first
not leaving this
major
market.
drop, body or sorry, and by the way, we call Will Bodycot because that's his last name, Body. It's just a nickname, and you guys could pick up on that.
Bodycot.
They need to know, but
It's banter.
but when you look at the value of the stock, when we saw that initial drop off, the every pretty much every single company in the entire market was discounted. When you look at the classic how you value a stock, you look at, for certain industries it varies. You can look at EV to EBITDA or PE ratio, price to book ratio, but you discount it to its next 12 months or last 12 months,
Exactly.
past history, and every single stock was undervalued, and they were overvalued for way too long.
Because they,
So I think this
but
drop
Rob,
off
they
is
always undervalue. They always undervalue, so people buy. That's
no, they don't control it. It's priced. They don't control their PE ratio.
no. What Wall Street does examinations on each stock price, and they undervalue the quarter one, quarter two predictions, so people are more likely to buy them in the next quarter.
Look, I
That's
think
Yeah, but I'm saying
absent
that
these
PE
predictions,
ratios
I think
aren't based off of Wall Street interpretations. They're based off of how the company performs.
look, I think you can lose people in the numbers, but I think if we're really debating the overall stock market and economy, there is nowhere to go but up in this economy. There isn't. People who are non-essential have lost their jobs.
In the economy, yes, but I don't think it's as immediate of a return as you may think.
I do not believe it will be like we're
Last for a
open, go back to
while.
your job. It's going to be a
I'm
slow
talking
recovery.
5-year repercussions of this.
Well, that's your opinion on that one, but the fact of the matter is, you're investing in the stock market, and that's what everybody's doing today in the hopes that you will get profits on the stocks that you've bought. And there's no reason to sell right now. We hit the bottom of 18,000. You've grown. It's kind of wavered between 24,000, 23,000. It isn't going below that, especially when you start to see states open up. Look at a state like Georgia that opened up. They predicted all these deaths from opening up. They haven't seen a single death increase. So you're going to
And
start to
that's
see the Swedish
exactly where
number.
we
I
run
would check
into it.
the results today, because we did see an overall infection rise as of May 14th.
As we will with increased testing, as you will with
we did see
increased
an
testing.
infection rise and a death toll.
Exactly, as we will with increased testing. I think there's just so much uncertainty, though, that we really have no say. Like,
Exactly.
we don't know how the coronavirus is going to turn out, and anyone can say we're undermining it or over worrying about it. It doesn't really.
Like Rob is saying, no one knows what's going to happen.
I agree. No one knows what's going to happen.
Predictions
I tend to
and-
have the optimistic view that people are going to start pumping their money back into this economy. That's just the way that I
problem
feel it's
is
going to happen.
this lockdown has lasted so long now. When we look at places like if it extends to the point where, most people don't have the luxury of not being able to work. Most people, if you look up the statistics, live paycheck to paycheck, and when you cut that paycheck out, that is just detrimental to their overall lifestyle. And there's no money going through the economy. They have no money to invest. They're pulling out other investments, and it's just really not a good look. So you can be optimistic and you want to be, but you have to be realistic at the same time.
I agree with you. I just tend to think that while I don't believe it's going to be an immediate recovery, you're going to have somewhat of a recovery over the next 2 quarters. And once we hopefully get a vaccine, it'll be like gangbusters. You're going to have a thriving economy when people try to get their jobs back.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, hopefully the vaccine comes within the next year, within the next 9 months.
I mean, they're working on a Manhattan project.
It's predicted.
That's what's. I mean,
But
they're hoping.
I mean, if there is a second wave, if there is a third wave, I'm not optimistic about the future of the stock market. And I think there are multiple indicators that show it is overvalued right now. But, as we've said, this is a crazy time that we have never experienced before. So who really knows what's going to happen? Who really knows how these stocks are valued, if they are overvalued?
I would say a lot of these stocks are pretty fair value, actually.
Really? Why do you say that?
Yeah. Just if you look at industries, average, just basic ratios, they were at such a discount, and we've seen such a good, that 1 month or what was it? Was it April or March? That really good month.
April. We had a great month, April.
Yeah. So I just think they shot up. I mean, they returned back. We saw.
But also in April,
we saw discounts
I think
go from 70% to back to almost fair value in a month. And I think that shouldn't have happened. That bounced up too quick. And there's
exactly, it shouldn't have happened. That's what I'm saying. 20.5 million people lost their jobs in April, and the stock market is surging.
But I think that's indicative of the fact that those people didn't necessarily lose their jobs forever like they would in a traditional crash. So you can't treat it like any other crash.
But I know you can't predict if this is a traditional crash, but I'm just going based off of past history of past crises. That's all we can base this off, because we've never had any.
And I think you can throw that out the window.
40% of businesses do not reopen following a disaster. I'd say this is disaster. If 40% of businesses do not reopen, I mean, this is terrible. Here, I have one more statistic for you. The Morning Consult poll from April 22nd. Obviously, there was a huge groundbreaking small business loan. 74% of the 2,200 stimulus money recipients say that the money will run out in 4 weeks. That was on April 22nd. It is now May 14th. They're planning to run out of money next week. Think about that.
Yep.
Those businesses this lockdown is going to happen for next.
And I think that your point is
already run out of money that the government has supplied.
I think that your point is a perfect transition into what I believe can be our next discussion, which is how long should these lockdowns last? And given the fact that we're $25 trillion in debt, we cannot borrow enough money to support the economy. Considering all the factors of states that have opened and the results of those actions, in my opinion, it's time to start opening up our economy, not for the benefit of being able to walk around and go into stores, but for people's livelihoods. Considering the death toll of this virus and the mortality rate, you see it in Georgia, you've seen it in Texas. These places have not had a meaningful increase in deaths, cases, hospitalizations are down. It's time to start opening up. Look at the Swedish model. Come on, Sweden literally didn't lock down, and they are still surviving. I'm
all for reopening. I think what is happening to these people that are becoming unemployed, what's happening to these small businesses, I hate to say it, sounds insensitive, but it is equally as bad as what is happening to these coronavirus.
Exactly.
Oh, it certainly is. And I think we're not taking that into account. The amount of death and destruction that these lockdowns cause to families all across the United States, in my opinion, in some cases, the mortality rate of this virus pales in comparison. Of course, we'll never know what would have happened.
And the mortality rate is, as we've seen from the Wall Street Journal, I read an article that there could be up to 50 to 85 times more infections than have been reported, which means the mortality rate isn't even close to
way lower. That denominator is
0.001%.
It's taking out people with pre-existing conditions, which is what should have been the strategy from the very beginning, was to lock down those.
Let's do Sweden strategy.
I agree. What we should have done from the very beginning, and this does not go to any political party or any institution, should have been keep those with pre-existing conditions inside, lock them down, and let people to start to get herd immunity from it. That's what should have happened.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
But you look at a governor of your state.
A lot of people voicing their concern about not reopening. Everyone's getting angry. I know in my own household, people are getting.
But I would like to point out that the governor of your own state, Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania, he literally put out threats to counties that weren't following his directive, as if he had any government say whatsoever. He has no.
I would like to see what would happen if businesses chose to reopen. for a day. See what would happen.
Well, he threatened them with losing their liquor licenses if they disobeyed him. I mean, this is
No, see, I
authoritarianism.
think we're at a dangerous point though,
And
because
let me tell you, liquor license are not easy to get.
Which is why this threat is authoritarianism on our shores.
It is authoritarianism.
And well, I agree with everything
I'm
you
telling
guys
you,
said.
if the courts, the Department of Justice is not being fair, if this is unconstitutional. To lock people up, it's unconstitutional.
All of it is.
And the courts are just too scared of the backlash they'll receive from the media, from, just the outrage that people will have. But it's unconstitutional.
There needs to be a lawsuit brought to the Supreme Court.
On.
There needs to be a lawsuit brought to the Supreme Court at a federal level in order to nullify these governors' actions. I'm not saying you should not take precautions, not go out. But the fact that these governors...
But people would say, is that authoritarian to go against the states' rights?
That's what I think. States' rights are so beneficial, though, in keeping away that authoritarian
that big central federal government.
They just struck down They just struck down the governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah, they just struck that down at the state level. First of all, I don't know if anybody's aware, but these governors have no right to tell you to stay inside or shut businesses. It's totally fake.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the right. Like, if people just didn't listen to them and they tried to exert their will, it'd be unconstitutional. They are acting as just like basically parents telling kids what to do. They don't have any right to do it. So
now
we got over our curve. If you look at the New York Times, their coronavirus data, we have gone over our curve, flattened it out, and we're decreasing in cases across the United States.
New cases.
Correct. This is what
with
we were
increased
promised.
testing.
Right. We were promised to flatten the curve, make sure there's hospital beds, make sure there's ventilators, all of which has happened. Mm-hmm. It is time to get out.
Think about the original reason of why we closed down. We closed down because our hospitals were overloaded and we couldn't handle the amount of infections and the amount of people that are coming in. But now we can. And why are we waiting on new things? Why are we waiting on vaccines and stuff like that? That's not what we originally shut down for. We originally shut down for, saving the nurses and the doctors' lives and just, nursing homes and stuff like that. And now we're transitioning to something that is completely different and unrelated to why we shut down.
And not to mention is that we didn't even protect those that were most vulnerable. We shut everybody inside while you had the governors of New Jersey and the governor of New York literally sending COVID patients from the hospital back to nursing homes where they've had unprecedented deaths in their nursing homes. 60 to 65% of deaths in Delaware alone and 60% in Pennsylvania have been due to nursing homes. Those were where we should have focused our resources. That doesn't even go to the federal level. That's state law and governors not doing their jobs. And now they pretend that they're being backed by science when they're not. They're just simply not being backed by science. They love the control that they have. They can't get enough of it, and they don't want to relinquish the power they have.
Yeah. Can I touch on something real quick? So I think you guys have touched on everything perfectly. I agree with you. And I kind of just want to emphasize the idea that, if someone's watching this and thinking, how can I have a rebuttal to our statements, which I don't personally have, but they kind of bring in the idea of making it more personal in the aspect of who are we to decide how many people die and controlling how that dies. And I think I don't think that's a good argument or a good rebuttal, because when you take a look at these small businesses and they're starting to come out more, and like you see these documentaries and you see reactions, they're not saying, it's not something like, oh, we're shutting down our small business to, save some lives. It's those small businesses are lives. People's lives revolve around those businesses. They need money. It's not like, people that are compromised are more important than the people that have these businesses that support other people. Like, it's selfish to look at it in the aspect of we should just help these certain people out and not support others that, like small business that said, it's a life or death situation. They need money and people need money to live, but not everyone has the opportunity to, not work and live on.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we have a singular focus. It needs to be more dual approached, but we'll talk about more of that after this break with some words from our sponsors.
Jones barbecue and foot massage. Jones barbecue and foot massage. Better come down here, get some of this. You like to eat. America loves to eat. So why not open up somewhere America can sit down, enjoy a meal, and get their feet rubbed? We'll fry anything you want for $5.99. As long as it's friable or edible, we're gonna make it deliciable. We will fry parts of the chicken you didn't even know was friable. The beak, the feathers, we'll fry candy bars. All that European stuff that you don't really normally eat, we'll bring it down here and fry it for you. Ask McDonald's to fry something other than what they normally fry. Guess what you're gonna get? Nothing. If it fit through the dough, I'll put it in the fryer. Hell, this is a dinosaur. All our meats are gently tenderized to their optimum deliciousness. We got fine dinosaur meat. So friends, let's just decide you don't want no barbecue. Well, that's fine too. Why not let one of my foot specialists or myself perform our magic? Look at that, don't they look wonderful? If you really pay me enough, we'll massage your feet in any of these sauces also. So go ahead and give me a call or find us on the worldwide internets at the new website.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Death, Taxes, and Hot Takes. Speaking of hot takes, we're going to have a few for you right here talking about The Last Dance, something a lot of people are talking about in the sports world with the absence of sports. What's your take on it, Drew?
Well, honestly, Body, I can't stand it.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Honestly, I love MJ. I love basketball. I love documentaries. I mean, this should be perfect. This should be right up my alley. But there's something about it. The way they're telling the story doesn't seem right. They were showing these trailers, and I was like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be drama-filled. It's going to show Jordan's last season on the Bulls in all of its fame and glory, and it's drama-filled. But it's really let me down. I think the story is told chronologically wacko. I think Michael is interesting, but I don't really think they're getting into his true self too much. They're trying to, but I'm not really connecting with them. And I want to learn more about the other players. It's been mostly about Michael. They go into Rodman a little bit. They go into Scotty a little bit. But come on, tell me more about Steve Kerr. Tell me more about Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is so interesting. Why do they only have 25 minutes on?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I'm a huge fan of the documentary. I mean, I have never been a huge basketball guy, but I'm getting into it lately, and this documentary certainly solidified that for me. I mean, I don't know how you could say they haven't been getting into Michael Jordan's past and intricacies. I mean,
they have, but it's all public knowledge. They're not telling me anything new.
Look, I mean, you're not going to get anything like that when this was completely sponsored by Jordan in the first place. He had to sign off on them releasing these tapes, and they're not going to get that without his okay with every single cut they make. So
exactly. I think that's my biggest gripe about it. I don't think that they're telling the true story. I want to learn more about Michael. I want to learn about his true self. I want to learn more about Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen. As I said, I'm going over the same points I made before, but I just don't think it's, a true talent. And, he's not even the GOAT. So why are we even...
Oh, that's a hot take for another day. But I mean, I would just say...
Well, guess what? That's my hot take. And that's my whole view on Drew's hot take of the Last Dance being bad, and the aspect of I didn't even really watch it, more than a couple clips.
That's crazy,
because
man. Come on.
I don't care really about the second best player in the history of basketball, which I love basketball so much. I mean, probably keep talking about it, but I'm a LeBron guy. LeBron's the best player that ever touched the court.
Terrible take.
And statistically, you can go both ways. Maybe MJ is a little more, but I just think.
Oh, so you just completely.
All right,
took
we
away
have opened up a dark path of debate here, guys.
The point is, everyone knows
nervous.
LeBron's just dude. He is just. There's something about him. He's just the most dominant basketball player of all time. He's the GOAT.
No, there's nothing about him but the fact that he always goes somewhere else to try to get better with the players around him. When Jordan makes the people around him that much better, you can make a case that when Jordan left, they made the playoffs, the Bulls with Scottie Pippen. But the fact of the matter is that they just couldn't get there without Jordan. You couldn't say that about LeBron. That's just a fact.
Yes, you could. Are you kidding me?
I don't think you
LeBron's teams would never have been even close to where they would be.
I'm talking about his Miami team.
LeBron took down the best team in the history of the National Basketball League.
73-9.
More of a choke than anything
ever
else.
Talk to me.
All right.
Or Drew.
And another point. I debate this
about LeBron like that. You were wrong. You were wrong. You're wrong.
All right, Rob. All right. Let me continue. Another point to go off of this is the competition that they were facing. If you are going to compare the Golden State Warriors to the sorry Seattle Supersonics, the sorry Phoenix Suns, the sorry Clyde Drexler, how are you going to be able to do that? I mean,
different eras.
3-9 Warriors, the Warriors with Kevin Durant, the Spurs dynasty. I mean, these are formidable opponents. And the best opponent you can give is Karl Malone and John Stockton, two maybe top 30 NBA basketball players of all time. I mean, it's just clear and it's cut.
It's not clear and cut. I mean, you look at the statistics.
Competition was not the same, and LeBron is playing on a new level that Michael could have never matched.
I don't agree with that. Look, you can look at the statistics. They're pretty close. You have to look at the styles of teams that they ran. Michael Jordan completely transcended every locker room. And yes, LeBron James is basically his head coach wherever he goes. But you look at the way that he built and broke down his players, mostly touched upon in The Last Dance, they feared him. I don't get the sense that they fear LeBron.
Them.
They don't fear LeBron. That's a fact. You have a lot of people leaking stuff after he leaves, taking place.
All right, listen, I've debated this subject so many times, and to be honest, no one ever changes their opinion. Everyone always sticks with Michael or LeBron. So I say we move on to something else. Does anyone have any winners or any losers for this week? I mean, a lot happened this week. I mean, obviously a loser is the freaking coronavirus. Actually, that might be a winner. I mean, it's doing pretty well.
Not a winner. Cases are going down. We're chilling, hopefully.
All right, I got a winner. I got two winners. First, Justin Thomas for getting the big-time paycheck on the cover of 2K21 PGA Tour. I'm hyped for that. And you guys will learn more about me and Drew and I's golfing career, as we'll talk about that through future podcasts. And I got another winner is El Prez, David Portnoy. He's just killing it. He's always killing it. I'm a long-time stoolie, so he's always a winner, honestly.
You know, if I had to go with loser of the week, I think it's got to be in politics. I know we haven't touched upon it yet, but it's this whole Obamagate thing. What are we talking about? I mean, we're spying on incoming administrations. It's not okay, and it's certainly not being picked up in the media, as we all know, as they have a hidden agenda here to just tamp down on anything negative revolving around Democrats. So hopefully it uncovers and we get some truth, but not looking too good for the Obama administration.
I think my winner for the week and the month and the last 2 months, and I hate to say it, is the media. They are making a killing right now. I mean, everyone's locked up in their homes, and what are they doing? They're watching the news. They're reading it online. I mean, they are just absolutely killing it. And loser, I have to think about this one. Does anyone else have any good losers for this week?
Probably me on hole 15 today.
Yeah, Artie had a 4-putt, actually a 3-putt from about 4 feet today. He lost $8. It was tough.
I lipped out. Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, guys, so we're going to transition to talk about a little bit about college life. When we go back, if we go back, certainly not for the California state universities out there, shutting it down for the fall, in my opinion, way too prematurely. What is life going to be like? Obviously, I think lower capacities in bars, parties, classes that are large in size. It's going to be a shock to the freshmen and honestly a shock to everybody who's gotten used to college life. So how do you think you're going to adjust to it?
I mean, our college careers, I'm a junior, Artie's a sophomore, and Body is a junior as well. I mean, we're really just getting screwed here. I mean, we are extremely unfortunate that this is happening during our time at college. It's supposed to be the best years of our lives, and I'm spending them at home with my family. What's going on?
What's with that?
When we return, hopefully in the fall, I'm begging for the fall.
I think they will.
Please.
It's not looking too good.
But it's not looking too good. Bars are going to be closed. Parties aren't going to happen.
I don't agree that bars will be closed. I don't agree with that. I think you're going to look.
Bars are going to be closed for a while already.
By the time that you get to opening up in mid-August to late August, early September, if you look at I think you're going to see a huge reduction in cases. Not let alone therapeutics for people that have it. So you have to
see. I think that's where you're at fault, though, because I agree the cases are going to go down. Everyone agrees that. That's statistics. The problem is, these governors in control aren't going to care until this thing is completely gone to push their agenda.
And that's where I think you're going to have some civil.
The cases are going down. We're screwed. We're probably here in the fall.
And I can't believe that they're already prematurely closing schools for the fall semester.
And let me tell you,
3 months away from.
That's I agree, but I mean that you have to think about this. I mean, Penn State, where I go, they had an opponent, San Jose State. That university just went online in the fall. How does it affect things? I mean, it is so premature to tell students they can't come back in the fall. We don't even know what the landscape is going to look like. 2 months ago, we thought this was not going to be a problem. We're talking about 3 months into the future. You don't know what kind of therapeutics can be involved or any more data we're going to get.
Yeah,
This is
well,
a big
I
decision
think I
by
have
schools.
a reason into why UC closing was not just coronavirus. They've been in financial issues for many years now, and I think this was just an easy out for them to make a quick buck, have online classes in the fall, and save off some capital for the future years.
See, that's where I'm gonna have to disagree with you, because if you look at polls taken, I contribute to those polls. You guys didn't. For overall overarching theme, students say it was around 40 to 45, 50, 55%. They're not going to return in the fall if they're online. They don't want to pay all this money to just do an online school, and they feel as if they're not getting the full experience. They're not getting, everything out of what they're paying. So if we see these, this mass amount of student body taking a semester off, these schools are going to get financially destroyed. Not that they don't have enough money, but, they're greedy. They want as much money as possible.
I'm in the same boat. I really don't know if I'm going to go to school in the fall if we have this online class. I mean, is it worth it to have online class, spend all that money? And
It's not.
We've experienced in this semester, I think it is like maybe 10% of what it was in school. It's just not worth it. It's
not at all the way that it needs to be. It's not the way it needs to be. And the thing is, a lot of people are telling their freshman kids to take a gap year. This is going to take a financial toll on all universities.
Yeah, and it's going to impact the college experience for, I think, possibly years, based on how different people react to it. You're going to see people afraid to go out. At the same time, you could say, oh, people are just going to want to go back to normal life. There's so many different, no one knows. And it's really crazy to think.
I think our generation is going to be the ones that are going to go out. We're like, not necessarily like go out, like in terms of going out to like the bars and stuff, which I think will happen. By the time that happens, like for example, Penn State, Center County, it's already in the yellow phase of Pennsylvania. But when you get all those college students back, what's going to happen? They're coming from all over the world. That's a huge liability for the university. And the reason these universities are going to want to close is because they don't want to get lawsuits if someone has an unfortunate situation happen. Which is why
I don't know if it's on them. They don't control virus.
No, people will sue the university for this.
Second off, I
100%.
think if like most people believe in herd immunity, I think these college campuses are the perfect place for herd immunity to happen. That might be a little messed up to say. I'm not sure, because some people might die. But wouldn't you think, if you're not having uncompromised people all together at a young age group, where the death rate is literally more people are dying in the car when they hop in, more people are dying from drunk driving at these ages than coronavirus. I think they need to open.
The real, listen, we talk about us getting screwed out of this. The real people that are getting screwed out of this are the freshmen that are never going to have a college.
No, I think it even goes younger than that.
I agree.
The 10, the 11, the 12, 13-year-olds, they are going to be messed up in the future. They're growing up in a time where we're not allowed to be 6 feet between someone. They're growing up in a time where you're not able to shake a stranger's hand, say hi, do anything without wearing a mask and having that 6 feet distance between you. That is going to seriously mess them up, and they are not going to be the same for the rest of their lives.
No, but I think that you're thinking a little bit too short term. Look, this is going to be remedied either through a vaccine or therapeutics within the next 6 months. Not the vaccine, the therapeutics. The vaccine will come within the year, in my opinion. They're putting together a Manhattan project called Warp Speed to get a vaccine ready. They're putting out so many candidates. One is going to hit. It's going to be about distribution to the compromised people in this country. The thing about it is that we are going to have to adjust to a new world. That's just the way it's going to have to be. And I don't know what it's going to look like, but
but fear has always been such a thing, an overarching theme in so many big events in history. And I think the way humans naturally are is that once everything is good to go, that I think humans are right back to it.
I agree. I agree with that.
I think they're going to be back on the airplanes. They're going to be back at sporting events. They're going to be back and ready to go. And there's scarier stuff that's happened in the past that has caused way more death. And the way people react to the wars, kids were afraid to go to school every single day. And it's when those people look back at it, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the mindset we were in. and they quickly got out of it. And I think that's hopefully how it's going to go.
I think this is a
I
true
hope less
test.
people die and more people make money because
I think this is a true test for our society, and I think our society has proved that it will bounce back. The American way, the human way, is to fight. We've done some fighting recently, but I think we need to take this thing heads on. We're going to find a vaccine. We're going to get back to our normal lives, and we just need to be optimistic and hold out, hope for the best.
Yep, and it's my opinion it's going to happen sooner than a lot of people think. I just think that the way that things are going, people need to get out, people need to get moving, and as soon as they can get over that fear, we'll start booming back. Well, that's going to be it on this episode of the Death, Taxes, and Hot Takes podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll have some guests on for you in the future. Definitely the audience, submit some topics. We'll get down to what you want to talk about. We had a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll see you next week.